Welcome to our seed starting video. Today, I'm going to be starting shallots, rosemary, sage and thyme. So let's get right into it. I use this big bowl to get my dirt nice and moistened before I get it all in the pots. I have a little bit of dirt left from the last time I started seeds, so I'll just be adding to that. I'm using fertilome seed and cutting potting soil. I'm just going to cut it open and dump a bunch into my bowl. These are my pots that I use to start my seeds. Now I'm going to water the soil in my bowl and mix it up. Don't forget your gloves. I add the water in slowly because I don't want to add too much at once, which will end up in a muddy mess, so I'll go slowly with it and just keep adding more if it needs it. I eventually want it to be a crumbly texture that will hold together when squished, but then break apart fairly quickly. Now, I take one of my little pots, grab my little scoop and I start filling my pots. I'll fill them up, and then press the soil down a bit so there aren't big air holes in the soil, and then add more soil to fill them the rest of the way up. And there I dropped a big clump of dirt. I'll have to clean that all up when I'm done. I'll just keep doing this until all the pots I need are full. So here's my setup. I've got shelves in my basement that I've mounted lights to, and they're on chains so I can raise and lower them based on the size of the plants. That black thing is a heating mat, which is a good idea, especially if the air temperature is a little on the cooler side. Now here's all my pots filled up with seed starting mix. And don't mind the knife on the ground. My husband is in the middle of doing insulation work in the basement where I usually work on my seeds, and I forgot to clean it up before I started. So on to my seeds. I'm a little obsessive about organizing my seeds, so it is not necessary to go through all this, but it makes me happy to see my seeds all organized, so I do mine this way. So I'm going to pull out my shallots, thyme, sage and rosemary, and we'll get these planted. The first thing I do, after putting my gloves on, is I grab my mini dibber. It's this little wooden tool with pointed ends that makes small divots in the soil, and that's perfect for planting seeds at the proper depth. And I'm going to make little indentations in the soil where I'm going to drop my seeds. Shallots need to be planted around 1/4 inch deep, so I'm just going to make a small little depression approximately that deep. Seeds are all different, so be sure to check the seed packet to see what the recommended depth is for what you're planting. It's also a good practice to start multiple seeds and then only keep the stronger seedling. This way, you're not tending a plant that's struggling from the very get-go. It can seem like a waste of seeds, but you'll end up with healthier seedlings this way. I'm putting 2 shallot seeds in each pot, then when they're 2 inch tall, I'll cut off the weaker one and just keep the stronger one in each pot. This is called thinning. Next I'm working on the sage. These are also sown about 1/4 inch deep, but 3 seeds to a pot, and I'll pick the strongest in each pot and cut out the 2 weaker ones when they're about 2 inch tall. Now I have thyme. These are sown very shallowly, only 1/8 inch deep, and 3 seeds per pot. The last one I'm planting is rosemary. These are just sprinkled on the surface, and I'm putting 5 seeds in each pot. Next, I'm going to gently press the rosemary seeds to make sure they're all in good contact with the soil. In all the rest of my pots, I'll fill in that little divot so that the seeds are loosely covered with soil. Lastly, I'll label everything. I intentionally picked different color pots for each type of plant, so I'll just label one pot in each row and I'll know that that label applies to all the pots in that row. Eventually I'll start repeating colors, so keeping them sorted in rows helps. Once they grow big enough to produce true leaves, I'll be able to tell them apart just based on how the plants look. But until that happens, the labels help keep everything straight. And I will reuse labels from one year to the next. I just cross out the name from the previous year. Once they're all labeled, I put the greenhouse cover over the tray, and put the tray under lights. And this is what they look like about an hour later. You can see a little condensation forming on the inside of the greenhouse cover. That's what you want it to be a warm, humid environment. That's the perfect condition for sprouting seeds. And 4 to 5 hours later, you can definitely see the condensation forming now. And that's it for this round of seed starting. Thanks for watching, and I'll keep you updated.